Hello, my name is Debbie, Owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 53. Today is Monday, May 22nd, 2023. This is a video mainly about cross-stitch, sometimes about other things as well. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope that you like what you see. And if you do, click on that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and watching my videos every couple of weeks. I really love interacting with everyone on the comments and just sharing with you the love of our craft, cross-stitching. So it's been a really productive couple of weeks for stitching for me. That culminated this past weekend with me attending Stitching in the Wild. That was hosted by Garan Stitchery, so Gary and Ronnie, and it was held in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's about a 4.5 to 5 hour drive for me. So I got up the morning the retreat started. It started at 8 a.m., but I chose to leave that morning. So I got there, I don't know, maybe 11:30 or 12. And just found a table, sat down, started talking and stitching. And I had some wonderful table mates. So thank you, Betty and Alice and Louisa and Kathleen and Rosemary. It was so nice to meet each of you. It was a really interesting group of people. There were two sisters there. So obviously they started at the same background, but they live in different places now. People who had lived in lots of different places. And it was also a really well-traveled group. So it was just a lot of fun to hear about people's adventures in traveling. So I really had a good time, both just the conversation as well as all the stitching, walking around and admiring what everyone had been working on. It was great to finally meet Gary and Ronnie. I've been watching them for years. And also I got a chance to meet some other Flosstubers. So Carolyn Zook from C Zook Stitch was there. I introduced myself and we had a couple brief chats, but I didn't really get to spend much time with her. But I also sat down with Deb, who is often makes guest appearances in the Sunshine State Stitchers. So it was great to have a chance to chat with her as well as tons of other people who were there. Just so much amazing stitching. And it was just great to see the variety of projects that everyone is working on and just get a lot of inspiration and, of course, a lot of shopping. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start showing you my stitching. I will save my additions to my collection at the end of this video because I do have quite a bit, as you can imagine, after someone comes back from a retreat. We tend to get a lot of stuff. I will also add, if I have to pause this video, you might notice that I'm sitting in a different location. My cats are a little bit freaked out by that. And also I'm the only one at home right now. And so that means I'm on go open the patio door duty, which means if they start to meow, might get a little bit loud. So I'll have to pause the video and go let them out. So with that, let me go ahead and show you what I have been working on. So as many of you know, I play a lot of different cross-stitch games on Facebook. It's a great way to build a community of people who like to stitch and don't mind posting photos every now and then and like to play games. And it also helps to direct my stitching. I currently have 66 projects that I'm working on. So there are some of them that, I say these are my focus pieces I'm going to work on, but sometimes I get a little bit of analysis paralysis on what I want to do next, and the games help direct my stitching. So one of the things I also try and do is if a project has a birthday, I try and stitch on it on that birthday. A lot of projects have birthdays in May because I did Stitch Mania in 2020 and I started, I think, 13 projects then. A number of them have been completed, but some of them have not. And somehow I feel like a guilty mother because I missed one of the birthdays. I looked at my calendar, I knew it was there, and for some reason, I thought its birthday was on a Wednesday. And so Tuesday came and I stitched on something else. And then the Wednesday came and I realized that I missed that birthday by yesterday. So it's going to get a special birthday in June when I have a little bit more time to stitch. So having said all that, let me actually go ahead and start to show you some stitching. So the first piece is one that I started for Mania in 2020. And that is Stars Bright by Lindy Stitches. So this was a project that I sort of went into timeout for a while because this is one of my first pieces that I had done on linen, and I had made a mistake somewhere over here and had done like either over 1 or over 3 instead of over 2. And then I had tried to fudge it, and this is too symmetrical to try and fudge. And so I ended up having to rip quite a bit out. And so it kind of went to timeout for a while. But I love, and I fixed the mistake a while ago, but I think I still had that bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, which has nothing to do with the project and everything about my learning how to stitch on linen. So what I did this time, I had sort of, wherever I had put the Q-snap, I had sort of been picking a color and just sort of filling in the squares with those colors. So I had quite a few of these granny squares half done. And so what I did was I just wanted to get the granny squares done that were in the Q-snap. And I was using, I think, 8 by 11 Q-snap. So I now have, that one is done. So I now have these granny squares completed and 5 of them over here. I am more than halfway done with the granny squares. I'm a little bit tired. Typical retreat between sleeping in a strange hotel, staying up late, all those fun things. Didn't get a lot of sleep. And my cats then freaked out when I came home. So they also were not very good last night. Love my kitties. Don't want to live without them, but sometimes they drive me crazy. So anyhow, so I finished the squares here, and then I came and I had some of these words done and added in, I think I had like half of the word have, and I started the word together. So that was a lot of fun to pull this back out again. I now have a very positive attitude about this piece. It feels on the one hand large, but it goes so quickly because just when you get into the pattern of stitching those granny squares, it just really flows. Another piece that is a focus piece for this year. I started this in the fall last year, I think, September. And this is 3 dancers from Stitching Jules Designs. And I was gifted this pattern by Jules. She gave patterns out to a number of Flosstubers who have under 1,000 subscribers. And she gave us the patterns for free. We provided our own materials. And it was just, hey, can you stitch this and show it show it as you are working on it. And it's been so much fun to stitch. So here is where I am now. I do have it pulled out of the Q-snap. It's like at 49%. So for a full coverage, this is quite small. This is an 18 count Ada. As you can see, this is all the way across. And, obviously, some of the still need to finish the tutus or the dresses on the dancers, but sort of their trunks and their heads and their arms, except maybe I don't know if that arm is completely done, but for the most part, they are done. So really looking forward to it. I just love the way this is coming together. I posted this on Instagram, and one person commented that she just loves it because she can feel the energy coming off the dancers. And I think combination of colors and just the way that this background goes, that you really do pick up on. So this has been so much fun to stitch. And again, for full coverage, it is quite small. It's about 26,000 stitches. So it's not the size of a Heaven Earth design or anything like that, but it's good. You still are getting the picture coming out, but not as many stitches are required to achieve that. So I'm really having a lot of fun with this. So thank you, Jules, for gifting me this pattern. Next piece I worked on was another pattern that was gifted, but I won it in a giveaway several years ago from Carla at Cobweb Corner. And this is Simple Little Big Love by Alessandra Adelaide. And this was a Mania 2020 start. And here's where it is. So basically what I did this time, I had done the outlines. I'm trying to get this so it doesn't all fold over. I had done the outlines of all of the feathers before, and most of them, but I know I had to fill in colors on, I think this feather needed some color still inside. This one definitely did. And then I had some of this swirl done, but I'd done a little bit more. There is somewhere in here a mistake. I have yet to figure out where that mistake is, but it does sort of not mess up, but like my counting is off here. So I've had to spend a little bit of time on these swirls trying to figure it out. It is not a perfectly symmetrical pattern. So as long as I've caught the mistake, I'm fine. I don't have to count. The mistake is somewhere, I think, in these feathers here. because the page break is here and it's a little bit hard to follow. And so I probably did miscount something somewhere. So this, I fudged a little bit so it fit in, but I just need to remember to count nothing off of here. Everything, this part is fine. The bird is fine. And this will come down and come down here and be the basis of the heart. So making some great progress on this one as well. All right, the next one is another piece that I am working with a group of friends. Well, not the piece itself, but this is Huckleberry Farm by The Blue Flower. And I joined a group of friends, and we called ourselves the Determined Stitchers. And we picked up an idea that other groups have done, or other groups of friends on Facebook have done, or in other media. And basically, everyone just selects their own project. They divide up what's remaining into 12 chunks. And the idea is to do one of those chunks every month. And by the end of the year, you'll have a completed piece. So this was a piece I think I started in December 2020 in preparation for doing No New Starts in 2021. I love the piece, but it just sort of sat there. I had done some, so it just, when you have a lot of projects, not everything gets equal love. And so I picked this piece because I do love it and I really wanted to see some great progress on it. So what I did this month was I worked on, I think I had done like a row or two of the fence here, but I did everything here. So I did finish this mountains and the fence and the beehive and the little bee there. You can see the bee there. It's a really cute bee, as well as the bear. So I love stitching her patterns. I know I have some mistakes in here somewhere and I can't figure out where they are. But this pattern, one of the things that's so forgiving about it, you can see the border over here. The border, well, it goes up at the top. That is the end of the border at the top, and it will go down the side, but it doesn't go along the bottom. So there's a lot of room. I'll just pull it back so you can see the whole thing. There's a lot of room in this pattern that if you make a mistake somewhere with counting, as long as you are not all the way off, that all of a sudden, that your vine is going to end up crossing that mountain or something, you're good to go. Like, you don't have to worry about, I'm going to stitch off here, because you can just add another stitch somewhere else later and make up for it. I originally this month had thought I was going to do the vine on this side. And then I realized I probably should get the motifs in and work the vine around it, because I do know I have a counting mistake somewhere over here. And for the life of me, I can't find it. And it doesn't matter, because if it's just a spacing, if this little bird somehow is one stitch over this way, it's not going to affect the vine. Although I feel like the bird itself is probably fine. There's no mistake within the bird, but either this is too far over or this is too far that way. There's something hinky going on there. But it doesn't matter, because her patterns are really meant that if you make a mistake somewhere, you can easily fix it somewhere else. So love this pattern. So happy with it. And I finished my part that I wanted to do this month. Next piece I pulled out in one of my challenge groups is a prompt that frequently comes up, which is stitch on your largest project. And so my largest one is the Grand Library, artwork by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is supersize max color. So it is a lifetime project. And I hit 1%. Woohoo! So very excited about that. But that means I have 99% to go. But here is where I am. So basically I had to fill in down here, and then I've been focusing on the colors in here. So I finally figured out what these were. And I couldn't really figure it out on the printout because my printout isn't that good. But when I got the final stitches in and I sort of, stepped back a little bit, I realized what these are paintings. So these gold things are frames, and these are like the picture in there. And of course, what was throwing me off was I'm thinking a bookshelf. Well, what do you have on a bookshelf that is smaller than a book? But of course, as you know, she's got people on her bookshelves that are, that tall. So the books tend to be bigger. And I'll pull this out. I don't know if I can see it. I don't think it's going to show up very well. There is a thief over here, and he's got a painting under his arm. Yeah, I don't think it's going to show up very well. There. And that's when it sort of clicked. Like, it does fit in with the theme. It's just until I got that, like literally the last 1 or 2 stitches and sort of stepped back and could see the whole thing. That's what it is. And now that I see it, of course, like my mind's like, duh, why couldn't you figure that out before? But again, really loving this and glad. There was obviously a lot of confetti ones and twosies in here. And it was good to have a chance. Oh, sorry about that noise. My cat is behind my tablet and she has decided that she needs to be difficult. So apologies for that. So anyhow, I just felt this, as I was filling this in and seeing the book sort of come to life and was sort of picking colors in here that are a little bit more predominant so I could get a little bit more progress. And then this is the crime scene tape. And a lot of those colors appeared in the frame as well, which is why I was able to carry them over. So that is Grand Library. I participated in Full Coverage Fanatics, had a bingo. And so there's, it's basically do what you want or approach the rules to bingo however you want. Some people are doing a different bingo prompt every day and they're just putting in what they can. Other people are, trying to do a blackout, which is 1,000 stitches each or 10 hours on each. It's really up to each stitcher what he or she wants to do. I chose just to go for, I ended up doing a row across. I looked and said, what projects do I have that I want to work on that will fit where I can get 5 in a row? And so I did that. And so I don't remember all of the prompts, but I'll try and go through. But I finished this. I finished the bingo already. So happy I'm having it done with still about 10 days left to go in the month. So the first piece I did was Autumn and Stars Hollow. They've come out with spring and summer. Yes, I'm still in autumn. Winter will come out next year. But anyhow, I believe this was flags was the prompt. I don't honestly remember why it was flags because everything on the bingo board somehow relates to the month of May. But I said the pennants are flags and got some great progress on this. So basically all of this down here is done. So this sort of background behind the skirt and the legs. The skirt itself is not quite done. There are a little bit, it's pale colors, but it needs to go in there. And then I needed some really easy stitching to get hit in my thousands. So I just picked this color and went and did that. So I could just have one solid color. For the most part, this is really easy stitching. A lot of block, but the colors, if I had wanted to work on the skirt, that would have been, there's probably 2 or 3 colors to go. And it's not that it's hard stitching. I think once I got into it, there would be a pattern, but it would just take a little bit more concentration where at the end of my stitching session, I didn't want to put it in. So it was easy enough just to pick another color and put in like 50 or so stitches and call it a day. So that is Autumn and Stars Hollow. Next piece, this was a Mania start in 2020. And this is Mystic Stitch Tug of War. Mystic Stitch itself is, my understanding is the company is defunct now, so you can't get this particular charting of this pattern, but I have seen, and I'm going to get it wrong, I don't know if it's Charting Creations or the Cross Stitch Studio, another company does have this picture, and if you can just get it from there. And I've also seen cropped versions of this. I am doing this version. It's what I had when I started it, so it's what I'm doing. And it's a lot of fun. I'm used to Mystic Stitch. I've done quite a few patterns from them. And back in the day when I used to buy everything as paper, this is what was available from the places that I was buying them online. So, but because it's a paper pattern, it is slower and it tends not to be it's not that it's hard stitching, but it's just, it takes a little bit more time. So I tend to go for my easier pattern patterns. But here's where I am. So the page break is here. There are a couple lines that I went down because I was trying to get a lot of black in a couple of years ago. But what I did here was, I know I had a lot of blank spaces over here and I had a few ninja stitches up here. Although when you have very dark threads and light fabric, the ninjas are not very good at hiding. They're very easy to see. So it was nice to have those all filled in. So I did that. This does go into the next page as well. This is where the bird starts. And I'd like to, if I know a color goes on to a next page, to carry it over as much as possible. So I would go until I'd hit a symbol that is not the same color. So this is the outline of the bird, although it looks a little funky because I think the string is down here as well. So it's like the bird head will go like that. And then the string was here. Probably more information than you needed. And then over here, this is obviously the clothespin. And you can start to see this is the spring on the clothespin. So I did put a few colors in here, but I really wanted to get this background part done. So I do have a few more rows of black to do on page 2, as well as I wanted to get the whole clothespin, which goes onto the page down here. I'd like to get that done, if not this year. It's one of my goals before I sort of rotate through all my projects again. I want to accomplish that. So don't know when I'll pick this up again. But I picked this up for both because I had a birthday as well as I used it for the Full Coverage Fanatics bingo. I don't remember what the event was, but it was related. We had something about birds. And so obviously tug of war is a bird. Next piece I did was, this is one of my focus pieces for this year. So I'm trying to get some good progress on it. I will not get a finish anytime in the near future, but I do want to make good progress on it because this is my oldest project. This is Old World Map from Artisy. And so here's where I am now. So I got in over 1,000 stitches on this, and I use this for Full Coverage Fanatics. And I think because they said pick a designer that begins with M, A, or Y. And so Artisy, I consider that a design company. And so what I've been doing is trying to pick colors that are, where I have ninja stitches over here, and these ninjas are much better because they're very pale colors on white fabric. Picking those colors and then sort of working them across, not all the way, but working them across sort of within this is the North Pole, and do that. I also had this realization, and sorry, my cat is now, she may or may not stick her nose right in front of the camera. We'll see if she wants to make an appearance. This is my one who is very shy and doesn't like to be picked up. So it's like, seeing a Yeti in the wild as she decides to appear on camera. But anyhow, I was always, a few videos ago, this very much looks like Scandinavia, but I was like, if this is all of Europe and Asia, that seems out of proportion. It suddenly dawned on me, this is Asia. This is Europe and this is Asia. And it's not coming out. Maybe the lighting's not going to show it very well. This is a very pale pink. It's not the 3865 that the ocean is. You can sort of see it there. You can kind of see a little bit of the contrast. And I kept wondering, what is this line? Because it's clearly not latitude or longitude, because those tend to be straight. And, the coin dropped up with me and I realized what it was. That was kind of embarrassing. And now I'm still sharing it with you. Still embarrassed about it, but my geography is not that bad. So anyhow, still, I'm not quite halfway done. I haven't quite, on that axis gotten half of this side done. There's still a few stitches left to do in here, but I also made some great progress up here with this ribbon thing up here. So I felt like I had accomplished a lot and started to also, as there may have been, the latitude and longitude lines are not solid colors, that there are multiple colors in there, and started to, there may have been 1 or 2 stitches of a color in here, it started to pull over in here. So you're starting to see those lines come as well. So having a lot of fun working on this one and trying really hard not to pull into the fun stuff over here, trying to really focus on getting this pole done. Obviously I'll be a little bit flat there because I the Q-snap, but getting as much of this done is my focus on sort of making progress on that. Next piece I picked up for Full Coverage Fanatics bingo. I honestly don't remember the prompt, if it was trees, if it was something else, but this worked for it. And this was Oak Drive by Mystic Stitch. It also had a birthday this month. It was a Mania 2020 start. Love this piece. Reminds me of, I live in Northern Florida right now, and it reminds me of home. So got in over 1,000 stitches on this. And basically what that meant, so I did have some ninja stitches hanging out in this tree or in this thick branch here, so I was picking colors and sort of filling those in, and also did a lot on this branch up here. And so, and then probably did pull a color or two and filled in a little bit here. So this is except for the branches themselves are not too bad, but when you get into the leaves and stuff, to get the kind of effect that you have over here, it is very confetti heavy. And so as a result, it's something, I have to be able to have time to concentrate on it and focus on it, and not always the project that I gravitate towards when I'm thinking about full coverage, because my other pieces I can work on more quickly. But I just love the way this image is coming out, and I really love both the way it's coming out as well as the overall picture. So another lifetime project whenever I'm feeling a little bit about thinking about the beauty of Florida, because the politics here are ugly. But anyhow, when I want to remind me of some of the really good things about the place I live, I like working on that piece. And the next piece that I picked up, and this is the last one for Full Coverage Fanatics, this is Heaven and Earth Designs, Little Cake Shop, artwork by Amy Stewart. This is these, is it also supersize max? Yep. It's max colors. I don't think it's supersize. I think it's just max colors. And it was like chocolate or food related or sweets, and I said cake is sweet. It worked for me. So here's the overall piece of what I've done, and what I focused on was, so even though I'm using Pattern Keeper and I don't go page by page, I said, if I just pick a couple of colors, I can finish them and I'll be done with page 2. Page 1 is done. So that's what I did. I did finish page 2, but most of the work I did was on this page, or these pages over here. And basically the colors I was pulling were in the ceiling. So a lot of these blues came over, as well as colors in the molding. So the molding, this is like the edge of the ceiling, and then the side wall, and then this is the molding on the back wall, and then a couple colors just that were in the stripes in the wallpaper here that I needed to do to finish that page. Love the way this is coming out. And it's one of these pieces, whenever I pick it up, I think I need to pick this up more often. But since I say that about so many of my pieces, it doesn't get picked up as often as I would like it to. Now, next piece I have that I'm working on is, it's been suffering a little bit for wear, getting pulled out in and out of my project bag. This is Mirabilia Portrait of Veronica. I worked on this quite a bit at the retreat. And here's where she is. So I'm still working on the dress here. I did a little bit of the cry neck, and I'm very happy to report I think I only have I have more cry neck here, and I think there's one more, and then I'll be done with the cry neck in this piece, and I'll be happy. But I also finished down here. I had before, like this, it's 3808 as well as a blend, so I managed to get that filled in. This part of the dress, I had a couple little colors I needed to fill in there, and then I've just been like picking a color, and as it's sort of in the fold, going down. So this, I just love working on this, and I don't know if I will get a chance to pick it up anymore for the remainder of this month. It's hit its target I'm trying to get at least 500 stitches in it every month. I did have a bit of a naive goal to have it finished before the Mirabilia retreat in October. That is not going to happen, but I would love to get substantial progress on this before I go to the retreat, because it's a Mirabilia retreat. I'd love to show people what I've done. Next piece I'm going to show you that I show every time is Cats in the Toy Box, artwork by Leslie Ann Ivory, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And so I'm now in the bottom row of this. And I also took this to the retreat, but I didn't get a huge amount of stitches while I was there, but have been working on this before the retreat as well. So you can now really start to see the backside of the rocking horse come in. And so you can sort of see that's where the tail is, which is a very colorful tail, and the haunches of the rocking horse, or is it a rocking? I don't know, or a rolly horse. It's actually not a rocking horse because you can see it's got wheels. But you can see there's like a little painted on saddle. So this is, most saddles I know don't go under the tail of the horse, but that's why this little thing is. And then put a little bit of this blue in down here along the border. So I really love the way you can see, and a little bit in the basket here. Really love the way I can see this coming together. And everyone was like, oh, put it on the brag table. But to me, I didn't want to put it on the brag table because, one, I wanted to work on it, and two, I wanted to, I like putting completed pieces on the brag table. And this did not, since it's not done, I didn't want to sort of put it out there, even though I was happy for everyone to walk by and I was pulling off the key snaps and showing everyone. And the last piece of, last ongoing project that I'm going to show you is Horn of Plenty by Glendon Place. So that's what that looks like. And this I'm actually using Sullivan's, not DMC, because I wanted to make sure I got the vibrancy of the colors. And because she had charted it with Sullivan's, I was concerned with the DMC conversion, that while I love DMC, that there can be slight, once you do a conversion, slight color variations. And I was concerned that I wouldn't get the pattern to look the way I wanted to if I use the DMC. So what I worked on this time is I'm working on the horn. And so I think I had a little bit of one of these, this part of the horn here, filled in this shading here, but then did all of this. So this is about 900 stitches from the last time that I showed this. I'm going to keep working on this. One of my prompts is for Down Under Divas is 2,000 stitches on something with a mushroom. And this has a mushroom, so I am not even halfway done with that yet, which is okay because I have, now that I finished the bingo, I have plenty of time to sort of pick up what I want. And I do so love this piece. And I do so want to get through that horn. And there's the mushroom is somewhere down. Okay. There's the mushroom. So really love working on this. All right, that is it for my things in progress. I can't believe I waited. I meant to show at the beginning of this video, I meant to show you my 2 fully finished objects. And I just automatically, when I start my videos, I start from this side. And they are over here. So I'm going to pull these up and show these to you. These are pieces that I took to the framer. So the first one I want to show you, if you followed my videos last year, I spent a lot of time working on this one. And I got it finished. And this is High Intensity by Artisy. This is the cropped version. And despite the fact that I have museum glass in, of course, it's never 100% perfect, but I certainly have less of a glare here than I would if I didn't have the museum glass. So there he is in all of his glory. Love this piece. The frame, I can't tell if I think it's some sort of metal, but I don't know exactly what it is. But I want to get it up close. I spent a lot of time with the framer. I mean, both of us were sort of in the same situation because I originally thought I was going to put a wood frame on it, but we couldn't find the right shade of wood because the dark pieces looked good up there, but then they didn't look good down here, and the lighter ones didn't look good down here. And if they looked good down here, they didn't look good up there. So we spent a lot of time, and then she just sort of pulled this one off, and it was one of those things that when she pulled it off the wall, and we just sort of said, yep, that's the one. So that's where it is. I really, really love this piece. Love the frame. Really excited about it. So, and then the other piece, which I talked about in my last video, which I had finished but couldn't show you as finished because I had to take it to the framer right away. This is O Joyous Day from Blackbird Design. And so I did this in honor of it's a wedding anniversary. It's a wedding piece, but in honor of my anniversary, which is next month, my 20th anniversary. So go through it. So there is the top row. And I can show you some of the personalizations, the intentional personalizations, let's call it that way. So on this flower here, the way that it was charted, not the buds themselves, but the outside part. 3 of them were the same, and the 4th one was a different color. And I thought, well, I had stitched it in and it didn't look right. And I thought maybe this is a mistake. So I pulled it out and put in the same one. And then before I did that, I looked on the Blackbird design to see if they had posted that there was a mistake, and they hadn't said anything. And then I realized this one, I think it's these, I don't know, the 2 of them are different colors than the other 2. But I just decided to leave it. It didn't make a difference to me one way or the other after I pulled it out once and put something else in. Also, I realized as I got towards the end of this project, which probably was part of the reason why I was a little bit confused, I think it either calls for sage or dried sage, either from Gentle Arts or Weeks Dye Works. And I had purchased the color and was using it, and I thought, I'm running a little bit low on this one and I might need a lot more, so I'm going to buy another skein. Bought it, and then I realized that the original one I had purchased was from not the called for company. It was the same color name but different company. Close enough, it doesn't make a difference, but that was one of my unintentional personalizations. But this was up here was my first time doing satin stitch, so the top after I did it, I wasn't thrilled with it, but I wasn't going to pull it all out. And then I sort of either watched videos or read about satin stitch. And so the other satin stitches that I do, there are some down here, and as well as towards the bottom, there are 2 more rows. I felt more comfortable doing them. And so they do look a little bit different, but as far as I'm concerned, this is a learning process. But anyhow, probably can't read it so well on the video, but it does have our names, Deborah and David, as well as our wedding date, which was June 14th, 2003. And I can't remember exactly. I know she had, and this part is 1/1. She had initials there because she had done this. This is not a true reproduction sampler. It's inspired from an antique sampler, but she pulled motifs out. The sampler itself was quite damaged, and so this inspired her more than it's not a true reproduction. So she said, well, one of her kids, I think her son, was getting married, and so she decided to make it a wedding sampler for them. And so she had put June, whatever their wedding date was, over here. I chose to put it here. I think she had O Joyous Day. I think that it was O Joyous Day in their initials. I took out the O Joyous name, put our names, the date, put in something else, or maybe that was over here just to sort of fill in the empty space. My unintentional personalization was somehow I counted off wrong for this letter, and I decided to leave it because I like it, the scattered nature. I don't think it detracted. I decided I didn't need to pull it out. And then coming down, there's the bottom band. One thing over here, again, because she was inspired by a sampler. As you know, when you're stitching, sometimes you're not really paying attention to what you're stitching. You're just sort of making sure that you're getting stitches in the spots that correspond to the pattern. And I filled it in and I said, TVU. Shouldn't it be TUV? And I thought, did I make a mistake? And I looked at the pattern and I had stitched it correctly. And then I went back to the reproduction sampler or the antique sampler. And that was the way the little girl had done it, or the stitcher had done it. And so Blackbird Designs, I copied that, and I decided I wasn't going to stick with that. So I did rip it out and put TUV. I don't know why that bothered me. It just did. And so because this is not a true reproduction sampler, it didn't bother me to make it more comfortable for me. And then, so there we are. There's the bottom flowers. That were a lot of fun to stitch, but I think a lot of people, I have 66 projects, and a number of people ask, well, don't you get tired of having, you don't get any finishes? But I will say I love stitching on that, but because I was pushing for a finish and I was overextending myself in terms of the number of things that I was, the amount I had to stitch on it, the number of days in a row to try and achieve my goal, that it got a little bit tiring after a while. And that has nothing to do with the project. It was just pushing myself to be I don't want to say an arbitrary deadline because I was trying to get it done so I get it for him before our anniversary, but it didn't make it as joyful. And that's why, like, I miss my projects when I haven't worked on them for a while, but it makes me excited to pick them back up again. And that one I was stopping. My excitement wasn't there every time I picked it up. It was a chore. And so that's why I love having a lot of projects now. I was monogamous for many, many years, but I was also working. And so I wasn't stitching as much as I do now. So that's sort of why I have a lot of projects. Sometimes I get a project and I do push for a finish because I really want to get it done. Like I can guarantee when I get towards the end of Cats in the Toy Box, I will be ready to get it done and be excited to get it done. And that's how I felt about High Intensity last year. I had wanted to get it done in December, and then I hit the end of October and realized how little I had left, and I pushed, and I was so excited, and I got to finish at a retreat. And so it was just, it was fun to get to that point. Whereas with Oh Joyous Day, just because I had made it a chore, it was less exciting. So that's why I do like having so many projects. So that is all of my stitching I have to show you. I am going to get into acquisitions. Some were gifted, some were purchased, and I've just got a big pile over here. And I know a lot of people don't like it. So I will just say, let me show you one thing before you go, because this is more stitching. And we had a smalls exchange, and I showed you in my last video the flat fold that I had done for that. And so the woman, so we basically everyone who was participating in the smalls exchange, you put it in a bag, you put it on the table, and then we actually did bingo balls, but it was just literally, they drew a number and you would go pick something off the table. And so this is what I got. I was so excited when I pulled it out. So this is the project that I got. Obviously, I didn't know what I was getting ahead of time. I don't know the exact name of this one, but I knew as soon as I pulled it out what it was. And this is Plum Street Samplers, one of her stackables. And these are the turtle ones. And so it is so cute. And I just love it with the little baby turtle on top. And she did one-on-one stitching on the head. And it's really lovely. And it has this lovely backing fabric with the chenille trim. And I think it's polyfill. It's definitely light. It's not anything too heavy in here. But it is so cute. And I love these. I have the Tired Trio kitted. I haven't started it yet, as well as several of the other patterns. I don't have this pattern, so now I don't need to get it because I have it. So thank you so much, Sue. I really love this. And then she also had her package. There were also some floss straps. And then these got caught, a pair of scissors. And being me, I'm like, I can't open them. They're really stiff. Of course, there was a tip on it. And as soon as I figured out that there was a tip on it and took it off, they opened up just fine. So really great. If you want to take these someplace, you can put them in your bag and you protect it and don't stop your stitching. So love that. So that is all of the stitching I have to show you. If that is all you're here for, thank you. But if you like to see all the acquisitions and want to hear more about the retreat, stay tuned. So as you know, if you've been to retreats, people are so generous with their time and their creativity. Sometimes it's just little edible treats, and edible, I mean food, not the other kind of edibles. Or, they, use their crafting and make something. I had really wanted, because Owlandgatorstitcher, I wanted to play up the gator, and I was going to make little bags of orange and blue jelly beans, and I ordered them, and the blue jelly beans came, and they were somehow got a little melted along the way. The orange ones were fine, and I was not able to do what I wanted to do. So I just made a pound cake and took it, and first day, because it was pound cake, so I didn't want it to sit around till the end of the retreat. I went around and looked at, not everyone stitching, but about half the room around, looked at what people were stitching off of the pound cake. Most, unfortunately, people were stitching and they don't want pound cake or buttery foods. Someone said, just put it up near the water and people, if they want it, will come get it. And it was gone by the evening. So that was my food contribution to the retreat. So we got there, and they had their swag, the swag that you get at every retreat. And it all came in, oops, this lovely little tote bag. It says Stitching in the Wild. And I have a big pile of stuff, and it's no rhyme or reason the order I'm going through. But I will say we got quite a few. Ronnie and Gary were able to reach out to a number of designers, and they had provided patterns. Some of these, I'm just only going to hold them from far away because it is just the pattern. But others, I think they are patterns that you actually can purchase, and I don't even see the one. Oh, here we go. So there's this Fox and Rabbit. I think this pattern will, I don't know if it's just exclusive right now for Stitching in the Wild and will be made available later. But there's that one with the Ronnie, the hand, and the Ronnie, the Gary Green. And then this one, this little sort of alien looking sea creatures. And I actually, if I find it, I will pick, here we go. I did end up buying the floss. So the pattern came as part of our swag bag, and I did end up buying the floss pack for this one. They have floss packs for the others. Not 100% sure if I'll stitch those, but this one, it's so quirky and funny that I felt like I needed it. So I decided to get this, and it's small. It will be relatively quick stitch, and so I thought it would be great if I had all that to go together. These are the three. Stephanie from Fabrics by Stephanie was there, and they had on Thursday evening, they had what they had originally billed as a welcome reception. Basically what it was is that they had it in a separate room, the pop-up shop. And Gary and Ronnie originally had thought they were going to open their own brick and mortar store. That didn't happen. I thought we were going to open it last year. That didn't happen. So they were happy. I think they called that this was their first brick and mortar, even though it was just temporary. So they had a little ribbon cutting, and then we couldn't go shopping, but we were all able to go in and look around and see what they had available. As I'm sure many of you know, Gary and Ronnie moved from the Fort Lauderdale area earlier this year to Alabama. So they rented a van and brought stuff down, but they were limited in the amount of stuff they could bring. So it wasn't, they did have some patterns, but it wasn't like oodles and oodles of pattern. I think they chose to focus on more specialty items and things like the kits for the kit, the threads for like floss backs for the patterns that you got for free and stuff in your swag bag. So, but Fabrics from Stephanie was there, and she was actually selling her fabrics separately, but as part of the pop-up. And so we all just went in and drooled over all the stuff she had. I of course went and checked out the 32 count Lugana, and ended up getting 3 pieces. Not the first night, but the next day, when the store opened up. So the first one I got, this one is called Princess Pollywog, and we'll see how well the colors come out. I thought sitting in this place I might get better colors, but no, I just get a shiny forehead. So here is Princess Pollywog. And so it's a nice lilac with undertones of sort of pale green. So that is showing up. I can sort of see it there. So that is one color I got. Next one, I'm not even going to say this right. Nimue, Nimue. I'm sure someone will know how to pronounce that, but that's not me. And I'm not going to open this whole one up, but you can get a good sense of it there. It's light blue. Maybe I will open it a little bit more with some lilac undertone, but and a little bit of green. But it's lighter blue than this. But the light blue is the overall tone to it. And the next one, Sarah Duen, I don't know how to pronounce it. But a little bit more neutral, sort of greenish with undertones. Again, you can see sort of the pink in there. It's not really that pink when you see it in person. And and then I went over to the cupboard one day. I remember I did have my car, but the person who was sitting next to me was from the Fort Lauderdale area. And so she just offered to take anyone from our table who wanted to go. And so we went over to the cupboard, and what I was really looking for was something for Summer Quaker. So Laura and Beth, I'd love your feedback, or anyone who's thinking about stitching Summer Quaker. I will say I'd like to do it on a 32 count, and it doesn't quite fit on a fat quarter. So it's causing me a little bit of, what exactly do I do it on? It doesn't, nothing I have in my stash really works because it's just a little bit too small. These colors, would be great. And I knew this buying them. Like, I didn't necessarily buy them for that, but I had that in the back of my mind. And whenever I try and figure out how much fabric I need, I do estimate a 3-inch border all the way around. But a lot of things, I'm fine with the 2-inch border if that's what will make it work. But I like it to be a generous 2-inch border. Like, if you go to a lot of fabric calculators, if the pattern size actually works out to, say, 5.5 inches, they will tell you they estimate 6 inches is actually what the pattern is, and then they want to put 3 inches all the way around, so you need 12 inches. But if you're following what I'm saying, so that it's not quite like you're actually getting more than a 3-inch border all the way around. So obviously, if you're getting more than a 3-inch border, if you do 2 inches, you're getting more than a 2-inch border, which means, like, say 2.5 inches all the way around. But, what I don't want to do is it's exactly 2 inches and then somehow I make a mistake. And so now I'm down to 1.5 inches, that kind of thing. So that's why I say a generous 2 inches. So I looked at the cupboard as well. She will cut things down to size. I didn't, and these were pieces that clearly have been bigger ones that people had taken other bits. So they're not fat halves, but they're slightly bigger than fat quarter. And I see if I can get my glasses to see if I can see what the name is. I think this is called Hermosa, and I think if I'm reading the handwriting, and I think it's PT. It looks like PTD, but I think it's picture this plus. I think that last letter is a P. It's a really pretty dark blue. So that's one option for Summer Quaker. And then the other option is Winter Winds. I don't know who the dyer is. It doesn't say on here. Nice light blue. It's not quite as blue as it's coming up in the camera right now. But, it's called Winter Wind, so I'm wondering if I should be doing Summer Quaker on it. So I need to go into a proper floss toss. I'm less concerned about the Quakers around the edge. I didn't pull out the pattern. I'm less concerned about the Quakers around the edge than I am about the center motif, because there is a lot of full coverage stitching, like in the water, but then the sky is not stitched. And I just want to make sure there's enough contrast between that without, like, the fabric overpowering the water, which is a light blue. All right, so now moving on to other things. We got, as part of our swag bag, a nice little notions pouch, accessories pouch. Patterns. So I did not purchase any patterns from Garan Stitchery at the retreat. Again, that wasn't really the focus of what they were selling in the store. They did have some patterns, but a lot of them were like berries and other things that I tend not to stitch. But I did get some stuff at the cupboard. So I had seen this in her video a lot. So Rebel Stitcher. This is Women of Honor. So Colleen designed this herself. So basically names of women that, they're not all American women, but women who have sort of advanced women's rights in whether it's in various fields. I shouldn't say fields. Whether it is supporting same-sex relationships or access to education or women's rights or justice, but just a lot of influential women. And I think I certainly respect all the women on this list. I may change some of the names out. simply because there are other women who have been a little bit more impactful to me and looking at history, but so haven't, don't have any plans to start this in the near future, but I had seen it in Colleen's video, and I've seen other people get it and stitch it, and I really like it and want it. So when the mood strikes me to stitch it, I will have it. And then also, if you've never been to the cupboard, the cross stitch cupboard, yes, there are new patterns like that one. But then she also has a lot of, clearly she has bought Stitcher's stash. And so a lot of older or vintage patterns. And the way that she has a lot of stores set up is not so much by, there are some places that are by designer, but some places are by, motif. So if you're looking for Christmas or you're looking for penguins or whatever, it's set up so you can look through and see that. But then she also had an area that are kits. And so it was on the floor. I hadn't seen it. And then I saw someone, of course, she came, look at this kit I found. So, of course, I had to go digging through. And these both are used kits that clearly came from Stitcher Stash. But this one was never opened. So this is Gold Collection Dimensions. So I had so much fun stitching high intensity. So whenever I want to stitch another spotted cat, I'm not sure if this is a jaguar or something else. I haven't opened it. But it is a full kit with all the black Ada and all the threads. And then the other one, this is, what do they call this? Let's see if I can actually see the actual name. It's Cigar Box Art. I don't know. There's a sticker on the front. I can't see underneath it. This one, if you watch Fiber Arts Amy, I did not see the video, but she made some comment, and she had some troll that left a comment, something along the lines of, well, why don't you move to Cuba type comment. And that comment got embraced. Amy is not moving to Cuba. But, sort of someone made a joke out of it and found this pattern or found this kit and sent it to her. And she's like, this is actually really pretty. And it really is. How to put it diplomatically, I am not a fan of the Cuban government. I think they commit a lot of human rights abuses. But having said that, and I've never been to Cuba, but having said that, is a country with a rich culture and history and a lot of beauty on the island. And I think you can appreciate that while at the same time condemning the actions of the government. Okay, off my political soapbox. But this is it is actually a really pretty pattern. And so, it's a kit, but it's clearly it's opened, but it looks like it has all the floss and it has the fabric in there. So glad to have that one as well. And then she also had some free charts that if you purchased anything, you're welcome to go through the charts. So I found this one with these wolves. So I just took that one as well. Okay. One cannot go to a retreat with Gary and Ronnie and not end up with some bags. So I purchased a couple bags. So cats, because it's me. I will say the inside fabric here doesn't quite match it. It's flowers, but that's okay. But just lots of kitty cats. And then this is one. He had lots of bags with this pattern, but these beautiful birds and birdhouses on there. And lovely sort of greenish fabric on the inside. And then they also had, two different kinds of drawings. One was sort of what they call customer appreciation. So everyone in your swag bag got a ticket, and they had drawings at fixed times, but so you knew to be there throughout the retreat. And if your number was called, Ronnie was walking around with envelopes, and you kind of knew, like after the first two were open, they're all were going to be bags. And so my number was drawn. So I didn't know, I knew I was obviously getting a bag, but I didn't know what bag I was getting. And I got Disney dogs. I think this is so adorable. I think it is so cute. And inside, doggy motifs with bones and paws and things like that. So I love this bag. I think it is so cute. So thank you. They also did a fundraiser for St. Jude's. And so so everyone basically with this, for the bad guy one, it was an equal chance. So everyone got this ticket. Once you won one, it was done. Like they weren't going to draw your number again. But St. Jude's one, you basically were buying tickets, and they actually ran out of tickets. But they ran out of tickets, but then they were people were just sort of making the donation. And so it was, I think they raised $1,000, because I think people were like, say, hey, it was like 826. They're like, oh, you can't leave it that. Let's make it, 850. And then like people were just, rounding it up to get to nice even numbers. So I did obviously buy some tickets. But I didn't win anything, which was fine because the point is to give money to St. Jude's. But like someone who wasn't even at the retreat had bought $100 of tickets. And so that individual actually ended up winning quite a few things. So, but all goes, 100, the prizes for that. I mean, Gary and Ronnie, I think, donated a couple of bags to that. But there were a lot of other people who had given donations for that. And so everyone was very gracious, and 100% of the money raised to that will go to St. Jude's. None of it was like offset to pay for materials or anything like that. Okay. I also wanted to purchase from Owlandgatorstitcher a roll of bar frames, roll of frame. So because with my portrait of Veronica, my Mirabilia, I do want to be able to have it in scroll rods in order to bead it. So they had a retreat piece. It was the Owlandgatorstitcher logo, and what they wanted was everyone to put their initials in it. So I got to experience what a roll of frame was like, and someone showed me how it worked. So I'll give these a go. So these are the sidebars. In a perfect world, I would have wanted something a little bit smaller, but these are the 23-inch. But I think even after I cut my fabric down, because I have more fabric there than I actually that I need, I think it's like a little over 21 inches. And obviously that's the fabric, not the piece itself. Your bars need to be longer than your piece. So I'm going to be having fun when I get to that point of having those. And then I think, and then we all got these little garbage cans in Gary Green. I think that is sort of it for, there was, at my table, I have this. So one of my table mates came to, when we went to the cupboard, and she wanted to do something nice. And because a lot of us had traveled so much, when she went in and was buying colors, she bought us things like names of the floss were somehow related to travels we may have done. So she got me Mediterranean Sea, which is this gorgeous sort of deep teal greenish color, because I had lived in Turkey, and the Mediterranean, part of the Mediterranean's near Turkey, and just other things. But there was someone who was moving to Alaska, so she bought her, I don't remember what the color was, otter or something, because we associate otters. I don't know if they live in Alaska or not, but she didn't know that either. But you sort of associate them with like being in the water and things like that in the Pacific Northwest, and just different. And she was just really creative in the names. Thank you so much for that, Kathleen. And then I will just pick up a couple of these things to sort of show you what we got. So this is a floss ring, but she, I think, put wild. It's not going to be straight for you, but it says Wild 2023 on there. We got just a regular keychain. People, all sorts of, like floss drops and finishing board. Tons of little candy bags. So I have tons of these. And so I'm going to go in bowl, and I'm going to try and portion them out. Someone made us all like little crocheted orc containers. Just so many wonderful little gifts like that. And my general attitude is, when you go to a retreat, you don't need to bring anything for anyone. but if you choose to, it's great. And if you just want, some of these are really hard to make and take time. And so maybe you just make them for your table mates. But I think because people are so generous, a lot of people are like, well, I don't have time to, make floss rings for everyone. But I can put little candy bags together. And certainly it's never necessary, but it's so sweet that someone is thinking about their fellow stitchers, and it's really appreciated. So with all of that, I have been rambling on for over an hour. So I think I'm looking over to see if there's anything critical that I missed. I think I hit it all, and I got a lot to clean up now. My husband was also out of town, and he comes back tonight, and he's very neat. So I got to make sure I clean up before he gets here. So having said all of that, I hope that everyone has had a good month of May so far. And I do encourage you, if you haven't been to a retreat yet, and you can find one, even if it's just a local stitching day somewhere like in your library where it doesn't cost you anything. I really hope that you can find a community of stitchers and just sort of draw energy from those around you and feel inspired to stitch. So with having said that, happy stitching, everyone, and I hope to see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.